They plotted to put out the light of Jesus by killing him, but they failed. Jesus rose from the dead, and his light shines to this day. Because he followed Jesus, Dr. King devoted himself to studying and preaching God's word and caring for his community. In 1954, Dr. King began pastoring in Montgomery, Alabama. The next year, a black woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat in that same city, an event that changed Dr. King's life. In the southern United States, life was segregated, a system of separating people by race. Black people were kept apart in schools, restaurants, churches, and stores. They could sit only in the back of a bus. When a white person wanted to sit in a crowded bus, a black person had to give up her seat. Rosa's actions led to a boycott, a protest in which people act together to stop using or buying a product or service or participating in an activity to oppose injustice, which meant that black protesters did not ride the buses until black riders were treated with the same rights as white riders. Dr. King's decision to lead the resulting bus boycott gave him another role, activist. From that time on, he committed completely to fighting the shadow of injustice, became the chief leader of the civil rights movement in the United States, and brought light to many of the country's darkest places. Dr. King once wrote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." He poetically described the opposites of love and hate in terms of light and darkness. Acting from love instead of responding to racism with hate and fear was the foundation of his strategy. Dr. King wanted to usher in an honest peace. That's why he taught nonviolent civil disobedience, using peaceful actions to break laws that are viewed as wrong. He led protesters to peacefully march, protest, and break unjust laws, all while bravely bearing any violence without striking back. Dr. King believed the Bible's promise that God's loving light held the power to transform oppressors into neighbors. Dr. King said, "We hope we can act in this struggle in such a way that they will see the error of their approach and will come to respect us. Then we can all live together in peace and equality." In Montgomery, black people were treated worse because of the color of their skin. Can you picture living like that? Black people had to use the back doors of businesses in white people's houses. They couldn't touch merchandise in stores to try on shoes or clothes. They couldn't use the same public restrooms as white people. Segregation laws forced black people to live, learn, worship, play, and work only in places that white people allowed. The segregation laws had a name, Jim Crow, a derogatory name for a black person. Nonviolent civil disobedience against segregation was costly. During the bus boycott, Dr. King was stopped by police multiple times. He was fined for made-up traffic violations and threatened with jail. "It is an honor to face jail for a just cause," Dr. King responded. Protesters were stopped by police for riding in carpools. Black taxi drivers were harassed. Many black protesters were fired when their white employers found out the workers were part of the boycott. A lot of white people feared integration, people of different races living together in freedom and equality, because they considered black people to have less value. Even though black Americans were citizens of the United States, they did not have the rights of citizens, called civil rights, the rights given to citizens of a country. The legal court with the most power, the Supreme Court, ruled that separating black people was a fair practice. In a case called Plessy versus Ferguson, in 1896, the Supreme Court said that separate but equal schools, bathrooms, neighborhoods, and shops were good for the country. But nothing was truly equal. Black people could not vote. They did not have access to the same opportunities and power as other U.S. citizens. In the United States, every citizen has a right to vote and have leaders who represent them in the government. But before the Voting Rights Act of 1965 became law, black people were not represented at all. White people decided what laws would pass. White people were the judges and jurors in court. White people decided how much to spend on neighborhood schools. White people defined where it was legal and illegal for black people to live. White people were in charge of college admissions. White people ran most hospitals and all police precincts. Black people had no voice and few choices in shaping their own lives. This divided system was based in white supremacy.